Today's conversation is on living the meditation practice in a very practical, down to earth, we could say, kind of way from personal experience. Today's conversation was inspired by a question that I received in Flow Based Prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. The question was, how do I bring my meditation practice into my day-to-day life on the journey to actualizing my vision, knowing that the vision is inspired from God, as in God gives and fulfills the desires of the heart, yet on the journey to actualizing the vision, how can I apply my meditation practice? And I mentioned that since 2008, I have been doing the Vipassana meditation, and it has been very helpful. 20 minutes of meditation per day, sometimes more, and sometimes I do it multiple times a day. But generally speaking, it's 20 minutes of Vipassana meditation a day. If you're interested in the meditation practice that I do, I'll link in the description to a guided Vipassana meditation. What I've also been doing over the years is living the meditation practice. And by that I mean very specifically. There was a talk here from Ramana Maharshi where he said, meditation is your true state. Now that's one translation. Another translation has it as, meditation is your real nature now. He says, you call it meditation because there are other thoughts distracting you. When these thoughts are dispelled, you remain alone in the state of meditation, free from thoughts. And this is your real nature, which you are now attempting to gain by keeping away other thoughts. Such keeping away of other thoughts is now called meditation. When the practice becomes firm, the real nature shows itself as the true meditation. So we can call this being as I am, or just be, or just being, or pure being. And by that I mean very specifically, as you have acknowledged yourself to be beyond limitations, as in you exist now, existence itself now, is beyond any kind of beliefs in mind or thoughts in mind that suggest limitation. By acknowledging who am I, as in I spring from the sure foundation, the source I am, I realize then that I am devoid of separation, devoid of separation. This means that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Bliss, pure bliss, Satchit Ananda, existence consciousness bliss, or truth consciousness bliss. So knowing that I am devoid of separation, it is illusory to think in terms of separation. So the practice is to not identify with the thoughts of separation, suggesting that I am not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Why do I say that? Well, from personal experience and also through many years of reconciling the various scriptures of the world, I realized that everything that I ever seeked for to experience in life, physically, that I am, which I can call symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, such as wonderful harmonious relationships, wonderful life experiences, wonderful business, and nothing wrong with me for desiring to experience life as symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. As I realized that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, by accepting these visions of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, or symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment as fulfilled, as in anything that I desire, that I am. So we could say desire means having, or desire means being, or desire means I am. As I have over the years accepted these symbols of being as I am, they seem to appear naturally. One may ask the question, were they always going to appear? And I just see illusions of separation in mind that seem to suggest otherwise, that if identified with, generates illusions of separation or illusions of suffering. Well, consider this for a moment. There's what we can call iti iti and neti neti. So iti iti is I am that. I am that which I seek. I am fulfilled, or I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which are wonderful pointer words that point to the fact that I am fulfilled, I am complete, I am whole now. Or we could say neti neti, I am not the illusions of separation. I am not lacking love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So that is an illusion, to lack love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, because I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, as I spring from the sure foundation of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I can be aware of what I think, how I emotionally relate, and how I behave each day. And if I seem to suggest in mind that I am not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, then that is illusory thinking. So the practice is to not identify with those thoughts. We purify the subconscious mind from where these thoughts arise from, which arise from beliefs in mind that, let's say, the person has formed in mind over the course of their life that suggests that they are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, thus conditioning the appearances. So by not identifying with those illusory thoughts that suggest that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, what happens is mind gets purified. You live the meditation practice. Now, one of the things that he said was meditation must always be practiced. Now, does this mean that you need to sit there and meditate all day long, perhaps in a Vipassana meditation? Personally, I've never done a Vipassana meditation retreat, but I have many friends that have taken it and they have found it to be very beneficial. So again, do we need to meditate all day long? Well, consider this. Meditation must be always practiced is referring to just being, or being as I am. So what I do, practically speaking, is I do a 20-minute Vipassana meditation a day. Again, I'll link in the description to it. And then for the rest of the day, we can say, I live the meditation practice by not identifying with illusory thinking in relation to people, environment, circumstance, information on the journey to actualizing my visions, whatever they may be. Visions, the desires from the heart, are God's callings. So what do I mean by that? I mean, consider that thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. The individuals are here playing the theater of God to actualize heaven on earth. So body comes here to do what body comes here to do, which is to actualize thy will of God. And it appears as individual desires or visions, which are essentially stimulated from desire. It could be building a harmonious business, harmonious relationships, etc. All of these are desires from the heart that if the individual suppresses, represses, or denies the desire, generates unnecessary suffering. They may feel that there is no purpose in life. Purposeful being is allowing yourself to be pure being, essentially no illusions of separation. as Neville Goddard would say, sin is missing the mark. So the original sin essentially is shame. And by that I mean specifically, if a person is shaming themselves for having desire, they generate illusions of separation. They may then suppress or repress desire rather than accepting the desire as fulfilled, as callings from God. That's why I say desire means having, or we could say desire means being, or desire means I am. You could say I desire to be as I am. Now, what this practically plays out as is acceptance of the end, as in symbols, acceptance of the end of symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And what happens is everything is allowed to flow. Body appears to flow, environments appear to flow, people appear to be in harmony with you, which is the reality of God, existing now in a perfect state, we could say, of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, if the illusions of separation-based beliefs in mind are identified with, this can result in overthinking or a person shaming and condemning themselves, and what I've been referring to as the illusory gap between intuition and taking the step. So what I mean by that is there's an opportunity right there to practice living the meditation practice. How so? Well, consider a person has an intuition to take a step which is related to actualizing their vision. Over the years, what I've been doing and what I teach is I take the intuitive steps and I don't worry about everything else. This is the play of God. So God takes care of everything else, and I play my role. I play my role by taking the intuitive step. Now, at times, it seems that I was hesitating to take the step. I was fearful to take the step. I was shameful to take the step, even though I knew in my heart that that was the authentic step to take, as intuition reveals, the authentic step, the resonant yes. So do I accept myself in that way at that particular point? If not, let's say illusory thinking may appear in mind. Or let's say if a person receives the intuitive step, illusory thinking may appear in mind, overthinking, suggesting illusions of separation, suggesting not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which is illusory. Why do I say that? Again, because you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Those illusory thoughts are looking to be released, we could say. That's one way of saying it, which arise from particular beliefs that the person has formed in mind in relation to, let's say, past experiences. Yet they're looking to be released. They serve no purpose, you could say, those illusory thoughts, other than bringing awareness to the fact that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. This is where I harmonize iti, iti, and neti, neti. So again, iti, iti is I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And neti, neti is I am not illusions of separation from being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I choose to be as I am. Just be. Pure being. Pure being naturally flows. So you don't hesitate. There's no overthinking. You naturally take the step. You could say you automatically take the step. Now, to live the meditation practice, if this illusory thinking appears in mind, which suggests, let's say, when the individual is about to take the step, that by taking the step, they're not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So practically speaking, in the entrepreneurial space, it could be making the sales presentation. So intuitively, they feel that that is the natural step to take. Then they are at the sales presentation and they're about to start the sales presentation. And then all of a sudden, illusory thinking appears in mind. They suggest that people don't accept them the way they are, that they are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. They may even imagine themselves arguing with people in their mind in order to convince them to do the deal, rather than allowing everything to be, allowing everything to flow naturally. Again, that is fine. By that I mean you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, regardless, we could say, of that illusory thinking appearing in mind. Another way of saying this is no shame and condemnation. Desire means having. So then the individual in that particular moment has the opportunity to just be as they are. Unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, by not identifying with that illusory thinking. And then what happens is they end up taking that step. They naturally take the step. Now, over the course of the years, I was presented with many opportunities to close the illusory gap. And why do I call it the illusory gap? Because it's an unreal gap. The person in mind is forgetting the fact that they are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in the moment for no reason at all. By allowing those thoughts to be released, they naturally take the step. They actualize the vision, which is the desire of the heart, and also they purify the subconscious mind from those beliefs which the person had formed before, for whatever the reason may be, no shame and condemnation. So that is how I teach practically, in a very down-to-earth way, we could say, living the meditation practice. So again, to recap, you have your meditation practice, whatever meditation practice that you like to do. I don't consider one meditation practice better than another meditation practice. Personally, I like the Vipassana meditation. And there may be even different ways to live the meditation practice. I recommend finding your way that is natural and authentic for you. For me, I live the meditation practice and I teach it in this way because I find it to be effective for mind purification, closing the illusory gap, a person actualizing their desires of the heart, which again is God desiring, so thy will be done, without the illusory thinking, without the convoluted behaviors, without the emotional turmoil. So we can call this a very integrated approach, physical, emotional, mental, integrated with the spiritual truth that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and all these things, which are symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, are naturally added on to me. Essentially, remain in my flow. So this is a way we can practically remain in our flow by not identifying with the illusory thinking that seems to suggest that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, no shame and condemnation. Live the meditation practice by not identifying with those thoughts. Just like, for example, during a meditation practice where you sit down for 20 minutes and meditate, if the thoughts appear in mind, you let them be. You don't identify with them, they pass. Just like that, day-to-day life, on the journey to actualizing the vision in relation to tasks, projects, conversations, etc., day-to-day life, in relation to family, friends, rather than running away from, let's say, seeming challenges or seeming problems or seeming chaos, we can embrace the challenge, embrace the chaos, embrace the experiences by living the meditation practice. And again, I don't force myself to do particular things, let's say, that are chaos-based, force-based, stress-based, just for the sake of doing it. I follow my heart and intuition, as Steve Jobs recommended in the commencement speech, which I used to listen to over and over again when I was building my IT business from 2009 to 13. And through the practice of listening to my heart and intuition and closing the illusory gap, we could say, by not identifying with the illusory thoughts, that I don't generate illusions of separation, such as convoluted behaviors, unnecessary argumentation, doing the unnecessary, we could say, which is, we could say, only necessary to bring awareness to these particular beliefs so they can be released, so that these patterns don't play out again and again that seem to suggest that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which is an illusion. The fact that you exist is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I spring from the sure foundation I am, devoid of separation. Thus, I exist now in a perfect state of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. If it seems that I think otherwise, then that's unwise. That's essentially old man thinking. It's not you really thinking. Old man thinking, as referred to in the Bible. Put off the former conversation, which belongs to the old man. The old man seems to think in terms of separation in relation to the experiences, and thus seems to generate an inharmonious relationship with life, shaming and condemning themselves, perhaps shaming and condemning others for having desire, rather than acknowledging that desire means having, desire means being, desire means I am. So again, 20 minutes of Vipassana meditation, I find is ample per day. And also, I live the meditation practice. Again, how so? Simply by on the journey in relation to, I take the opportunities, if they present themselves, if illusory thinking appears in mind that seems to suggest that I am not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I release it. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I am not lacking love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, what does this practically play out as? Well, it practically plays out as having more harmonious life experiences without the side effects of suffering. Harmonious relationships, harmonious relationship with environment, people, circumstances. And for the entrepreneur on the day-to-day journey to actualizing the entrepreneurial success, they experience what I refer to as a flow-based journey to actualizing the vision, rather than one of stress and frustration. See, the stress and frustration is the result of identification to illusions of separation-based thinking, which again seems to suggest that we are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which is simply not true. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. The fact that you exist is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Not for this or that reason. The fact that you exist is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So the unnecessary seeking for approval, validation, or confirmation of being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment ceases. And then body naturally flows. Body comes here to do what body came here to do. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, this is actually experience. So as we're talking about here, practically speaking, you experience what is being discussed here through the release of identification to the illusions of separation-based beliefs by not identifying with the illusions of separation-based thoughts that may arise in mind from those beliefs. As you continue to not identify with them, similar to the 7-day mental diet by Emmett Fox. Recently, I did a conversation on the 7-day mental and emotional diet, factoring both thoughts and emotions harmoniously. If you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. So, similar to that, what happens is mind gets purified from those beliefs, and less, the individual notices that those thoughts of disharmony, we could say, that seem to suggest not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, no longer seem to arise in mind. And then a person experiences flow more so. They live in their flow. Practically speaking, what happens is, let's say, what could appear as a flow restrictor could be an environment, a circumstance, etc., no longer appears as a flow restrictor. It actually appears as a flow enhancer. For example, we were talking about earlier about conversation sales presentations. So for example, if the prospect says no, that they're not interested, it doesn't change the fact that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. We could say you are unaffected by it, because you really are unaffected by it. You exist as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So if they say, no, they're not interested in the deal, it doesn't mean that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You remain as you are, just being as I am, pure being. Now, what's interesting about that is from that particular place, which is meditation, we could say, being as you are, naturally what arises in mind is clear thinking, intuition. You know what to say, you know what to do, and everything flows naturally. We can say sometimes it plays out as the prospect coming back later on, wanting to do the deal with you. Sometimes I've seen the prospects refer business to you. And they may even say, because I've heard them say this, it was such a wonderful, harmonious presentation. I didn't feel forced or strong armed that I gladly chose to refer someone to you that was a genuine match. So rather than trying to control things, see, the person in mind may be trying to control people, environment, circumstance, information because they think that by controlling it, then they can experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And that is completely illusory. In other words, the individual does not need to think that because they are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Then, as a result of acknowledging, we can say that they are whole, complete, by not identifying with the illusory thinking. By meditating, we could say living the meditation practice, what naturally arises in a wonderful way, again, how is taken care of by God. God does everything. I don't worry about the how. So practically, I don't worry about the how by not identifying with the illusory thinking that seems to suggest that I'm not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And then the way appears. Because whatever way appears here, having built 3 successful businesses over the years, the way, some way, somehow leads to the result or plays out as the theater, we could say, to the result. It could be I'm involved with this client or I get involved with this other business initiative. I'm not identified with the appearances. I'm not attached to the appearances. Yet we could say it's experienced as a play of God, a harmonious play of God. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I unconditionally accept myself. I radically accept myself as unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I take every opportunity that presents itself to accept that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. As I continue to accept myself as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all, the world appears to be in harmony with me. Delight appears as the light was. Pure consciousness as bliss. Satchit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. The natural result in appearance of being as I am now.